Confirmation hearing for Gary Gensler, Biden's nominee to lead the SEC, will begin in an hour. If he's confirmed, what do you think will be his style as head of the SEC? How will he differ from Jay Clayton during the Trump administration? And what do you think will be his top crypto priorities?
Well, Gary Gensler is a very different person than Jay Clayton. First of all, he's not a lawyer, and that makes a big difference. Lawyers have much more of a establishment. I have an MBA like Gensler does and a JD. And I can tell you there's a big difference between the way that lawyers are taught to think and the way the business people are taught to think. And lawyers are much more cautious, risk averse, slower moving. Gensler not only has an MBA from Wharton, he spent many, many years at Goldman Sachs, and he's been on the cutting edge of regulating in fast-moving and crisis markets.
So you think he'll bring that entrepreneurial spirit to the crypto industry and trying to get regulations passed or rules signed in, or?
He's made, I think his comments that he's already submitted are very telling. He points to two things early on, and he's just got 2 pages of comments for his hearings today. He points to clear rules, which I think is going to be very well received in the community, because that's something that the SEC has been saying all along. Oh, we have, the Howey test, and we have existing securities laws, but they're labyrinthine and they're not designed for the kind of new technology that's now coming up on blockchain. The second thing he points to as one of his priorities is having a cop on the beat. So he is not going to back off of enforcement. And I think he views, he knows this space. He's been teaching at MIT in blockchain, crypto, fintech. I mean, he's an expert. So I think the SEC is going to experience a transformation. I think if I were working at the SEC right now, I would be reading everything that he ever assigned to any of his students. And I would be watching his lectures, that are posted, and trying to catch up as quickly as possible, because, he's going to be able to ask all kinds of questions, and he's going to think at a whole different level than Jay Clayton did.
That's so interesting. But the SEC is still a bureaucracy, right? I mean, even if he does have these kind of instincts to sort of do this revolutionary transformation, is he really going to be able to? I mean, how much change can really expect to see within an institution like the SEC?
You are absolutely right, Emily. The SEC, we used to use many years ago the analogy of it's like an aircraft carrier. It doesn't turn on a dime. It takes quite a bit to get it to change direction. But Gary Gensler made a lot of changes when he was at the CFTC. He was really pushed the staff hard. He has a reputation as a hard taskmaster. And I think he's going to bring that to the SEC. Not that the SEC is a relaxed kind of place, but, I think that, he's going to bring that passion about the crypto and blockchain space to the SEC. And I don't think that has really been there. Yes, the SEC created a cyber unit, but that's really to focus on the large number of scams that, are taking place in the ICO space. I think he's going to approach this a little bit differently. The CFTC had Lab CFTC right up front. I mean, they were right in the vanguard. They wanted to get input from the industry. And I think the SEC has been slow to come to that, and has been coming to that, seeking more input from industry. But I think it could move faster, and I think he will speed that process up. I do not expect that he's going to turn around and, change enforcement priorities, on a dime. You're absolutely right that will be a slow process if it happens at all.
Lisa, how worried is the SEC about all these companies that are buying Bitcoin and sort of turning themselves into fake ETFs, if you will? Is that a concern of theirs, and how will Gensler view it?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge concern. I mean, when I buy a company, I want to know that it is actually what it does the business that it is holding itself out to do. It's not secretly an ETF, and I think that is something that Gensler is going to be looking at closely, or have the SEC staff looking at closely. That is a real worry. But on the flip side, the SEC has not approved or permitted Bitcoin ETFs. And so,
Lisa, I wonder, the Chicago Board of Options Exchange has filed to list shares of NX Bitcoin ETF. The legal review could lead to the first Bitcoin ETF in the U.S. What concerns does the SEC have over a Bitcoin ETF? And, Canada having just passed a couple of ETFs, will that pave the way for one in the U.S.?
I think we are well on the way to having one in the U.S. I think a lot of the concerns that the SEC has raised in the past are really, again, coming from the perspective of being very cautious lawyers. And, Bitcoin, the SEC has pointed to the lack of real confidence in pricing and, a lot of just this not being an established marketplace for Bitcoin. And I think that has changed over the past year. So I think Gensler is the kind of person who will look at that fresh and will say, wait a minute, there is huge demand for this. There are people who want to get into it, but I get calls all the time from people who are trying to dip a toe into Bitcoin. They want to try it out, and instead they're getting out there and having their private keys hacked and losing everything. So, wouldn't it be better if they had an ETF that they could invest in? That would be a little bit safer.
One argument for sure.